looking out into the next 10, 20 years, I don't think there's a better part of the emerging market equity space. I don't think there's anything close to the Indian internet sector for long-term investors.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Kevin Corter. He's the founder of EMQQ Global. Kevin, very good to have you in the studio with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So we're chatting about the INQQ India Internet UCITS ETF. Tell us more about this ETF and what its objectives are.
Sure. Well, India is an emerging market, and the reason investors are interested in emerging markets is they have a lot of people. They are younger, so they have better demographics. They have faster GDP growth. And that's driving consumption. And India is basically number one in all of those categories. It's the largest population ever now, growing every day. It's the youngest population. It's got the fastest growing economy, and that's driving massive consumption. So at the root of the idea is the consumer in India. But what's happening is right as these 1.5 billion Indians are becoming consumers, they're also getting two other things that we take for granted, things we've had for a long time. They're getting their first computer. It's not a desktop computer. It's not an Apple product. It's an Android-based smartphone that's getting better and more affordable every year. In India now, for example, you can get a brand new smartphone for as little as $12. So the computer is sweeping the world, and it's reaching India in form of a pocket-sized supercomputer. And when those hundreds and hundreds of millions of Indians get their first computer, they're also getting the internet for the first time. I got the internet in 1995. It was on a telephone line. Now the internet's obviously wireless. So you're giving 1.5 billion people their first internet, their first computer, and it's driving massive growth. Just as we saw the FANG stocks in the United States, it's the same story. Now it's reached India.
And how do you capture all that into an ETF, Kevin?
Sure. Well, we own what Indians would call the new age technology companies, basically the app economy, the internet economy. So it's, again, all the same types of things that we have here or in the United States. It's the DoorDash or Deliveroo, the food delivery app. It's online travel. You want a plane ticket or a train ticket or a hotel, you're going to use Make My Trip. Online insurance. All the things we do, but just the local Indian version.
Okay, so your exposure or the holdings are spread across communications, financial services, technology, consumer discretionary, energy, but they're all linked to the internet.
Yes, it's the new age economy, not the legacy economy, which all too often sort of drags down traditional emerging markets indexes.
In fact, you say on your fact sheets that it's the digital golden age for India at the moment.
Well, it definitely is. Again, you have this great confluence of these three megatrends: consumption, computers, the internet. And because in most of the world, these new consumers, they've never had a lot of the consumption infrastructure we have, meaning they've never had a bank account or a credit card or any formal inclusion in the financial system. They don't have a motorized vehicle. There's no Tesco markets around. So these new consumers are leapfrogging and in many ways are more digital. But what makes the India story even more exciting is not only are they getting the computers and getting the internet for the first time, the country, the government has initiated a thing called the India Stack, which is India's own digital public infrastructure. We have digital public infrastructure, the internet, GPS. These are things that they're digital, obviously. They're free, and they're like the pipes or the pipelines or the roads of the information infrastructure. And India has built an identification layer, a digital ID layer. 10 years ago, only about 20% of Indians had any kind of identification card. And less than half of the people born even had a birth certificate. So a lot of people didn't even know their birthday. So they started a program where they gave everybody a physical ID card with their picture and their information and their own 12-digit number, but they also scanned their eyes and their fingers so that everybody could be instantly verified as who they are in seconds and for essentially no cost. And so that program is called Aadhaar, which means foundation. So the foundation of this digital infrastructure is this ID program. They've used it to bring 800 million people into the financial system. So in the last 10 years, 800 million people walked into a bank and put their finger down and looked in the camera and in minutes opened a digital bank account. So the entire population is now in the financial system in a digital way. Private companies can use this as well. So when they launched the first 4G network, Jio digital. It used to take 3 hours to get a new phone, sometimes 3 days. They signed up 1 million people a day in the first 100 days using that database. So that's the foundation of this digital infrastructure that India has as a payments layer that's instant free payments, no visa, no cost at all. I push a button, the money's in your account, you push it back to me. You could do that 1 million times, it would still be the same amount. So India has digitized their people, digitized their financial system, and they've built this operating system called the India Stack, which is really a secret weapon that most of the world doesn't appreciate. So that's why we talk about this digital golden age.
Okay, so take us through the methodology of the ETF, Kevin.
Sure. Well, again, we're trying to capture the new age technology, the smartphone app-based world that we all know and live every hour of our day, basically, now. And so it's not necessarily one sector. It's not just tech companies. In fact, I don't think really many of them are called tech companies in the database. They're consumer companies. So one of the holdings, for example, is the leader in food delivery, Zomato, again, the Deliveroo or DoorDash. So that's one example. The Domino's Pizza of India, another consumer name. 80% of their orders are mobile phone-based orders for delivery. So again, the database might call it a consumer stock, but again, we want the internet version of that. Online beauty products, Nykaa, another example where it's like the Sephora of India, but online. So energy, we have the Indian Energy Exchange, different financial services as well. So that's what we're looking to do. And basically, if you are one of those companies, which is what our research is to identify the best of those companies, as long as you reach our market cap and liquidity minimums, we will include them in the portfolio. Right now, there's 30 stocks, and we rebalance twice a year. And there's been a lot of IPOs, so we're always picking up new companies in India as the IPOs continue.
And the sort of performance that all delivers for your ETF?
Well, last year was quite good. In calendar 2024, we had the best performance of any of the India strategies. But starting in the fourth quarter, the Indian equity market started a correction. We didn't peak until December, but we've been down in the last 10, 12 weeks, over 20%. So we're actually back to where we were about 15 months ago in terms of the price. Now, the sector grew a lot last year, and it's continuing to grow, but the markets are in a bit of a correction, which is one of the reasons that I'm somewhat pounding the table right now, because the story hasn't changed for long-term investors. In fact, it's very, very early in the India story. And in almost any one of these digital sectors that I've mentioned, food delivery, beauty products, these sectors can have 500% growth, and they'll still be early, because of how little the current per capita spend is on most of these different categories.
And your outlook at this point, given the growth that's expected in India?
My outlook is quite strong. I don't make short-term stock market predictions. The stock market, again, has been down, across the board for Indian equities in the last several months. It may go lower, certainly, but my long-term outlook is great. I mean, I don't think in my 20 years investing in emerging markets, it's kind of like China was 20 years ago before Alibaba and Tencent took off. But looking out into the next 10, 20 years, I don't think there's a better part of the emerging market equity space. I don't think there's anything close to the Indian internet sector for long-term investors.
So the digital golden age for India. Kevin, I hope you'll keep us posted on any further developments with the fund, but thank you very much for coming into the studio today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
That's Kevin Carter. He's the founder of EMQQ Global.